Floyd Shivambu says he was never comfortable with the EFF's disruptive behaviour in Parliament during his 10 years in the party. Floyd is busy attacking the EFF and Julius Mayo, martyring his party consultations. Is it necessary, or he is trying to bring Mayo down? He even accused Mayo Ma of stealing municipality money and tender scandal. Watch now.
Part of the reasons, even if there was no MK, even if I was not going to do anything, one of the things that I was not comfortable with throughout my years in Parliament, the 10 years in Parliament, was a culture of disruption and rudeness that characterized those that we served with. And all of those things were just planned, like in a childish way, with no purpose. Sometimes even when there are areas of agreement, you realize that on this question we can agree. Why don't we sit down and agree on this issue and then we'll raise our issues robustly? No, today we're going to disrupt. It was not something that happened spontaneous. It was planned in a meeting. And I can tell you now that there was only one person who initiated those disruptions. It was not the leadership collective. And that was mistaken to be so-called militancy and radicalism. And we kept on asking, how does this relate to voters on the ground or to the people that sent us here? And that is why some of those things, there is 600,000 lesser people who voted for that organization because they realized, but we sent you to represent us there, but you are grandstanding. So it's one of the things which, even if there was no MK or any other thing, we were going to disassociate from. And we raised it internally. What is the strategic value? What is the tactical value even of wanting to be disruptive? And what then happens? You know, the saddest thing that you will see is that the younger generations that get to associate with that organization, even in councils and legislatures, for no reason they just go and disrupt and engage themselves in violence. And then they think that is being revolutionary because the leader says, no, that is being revolutionary. What kind of revolution is that? That is just disruption even when it's senseless. It's one of the things which will never define and be the character of Maibuye. We'll engage robustly, we'll tell the truth, we'll tell no lies, we'll claim no easy victories. But we will not be disruptive for the sake of it. We will not be disrespectful and just want to disrupt at any given point, even when you have got an opportunity to give leadership and guidance.
With progressive formations, we are prepared to sit back. But let's tell you, we'll fully participate in this parliament. And this time around, we have taken a decision not to play a role of a disruption, of being robust, of engaging to a point where we follow up that which was rejected illegally in parliament through peaceful protest on the streets. You will never see us on the stage. You will never see us fighting with any bouncer, anything of that sort. We are here as a 10-year-old organization with mature parliamentary politics, well experienced, to make sure that the views of those who voted for us are well represented. From now onwards, when you say there is a racist at our work, we check the historical tweeting of yours. If you have been tweeting ANC, DA, go and fight with those white people alone. We are now representing our own people who have been supporting us. Skatele manje. Skatele. We are with our people. And let me reassure you, this party is going to grow. This deal is the best deal you can ever think of. We did this deal almost the same in 2016. What happened after 2016? We increased our votes in 2019. We moved from 25 members of parliament to 45. 44 members of parliament. So we have never engaged in a deal that is detriment to the growth of the EFF. We have always made calculations as to how do we grow our movement. So we are well within our right. We have not lost our support. The base that we started with in 2014 were not there. Anyone who says we are back there is not true. We are not in 2014. We have just lost some few seats and we are going to bounce back very strongly in 2026, and we are going to work in a focused manner. If you go and look at the list of the EFF now, in the legislatures, in the national parliament, in the NCOP, and look at where those people are coming.
Now, comrades, we are going to form a political movement which will contest elections if all of us agree we should do so. And it will be called the Africa Mayabuye Movement, which is going to contest elections. And the values and principles of that party will be shaped by the people of South Africa. We're not tiptoeing around, we're not confused, but we do not want to form a political movement which we just sit in a round table and we think we're intellectuals and ideologues and conceptualize without touching base with the people. There are so many useful things and inputs which we get to even listen to here today. A lot of fresh ideas that are coming up as to what do we do and how do we do things differently. Freedom fighters is going to outlive all of us. It has gained a life of its own even now. So even what you are saying, the president is leading excellently the organization and is doing extremely very well in a very decisive, focused, an inspirational, persuasive way. But the organization is growing, this Ipsos research company generated a report which they presented to all of us to illustrate that when we participated in the first elections, the individual leaders of the EFF, because the organization was still young, were much more popular than the organization. But it is now a different story. The organization has gained a life of its own. Look, in the recent past, this past week, in the University of South Africa, 43,000 students, where we are not involved, none of us here, in the campaigns of the Student Representative Council elections. And 43,000 people voted for the EFF student commands without our participation. So this organization is far, far, far much bigger than all of us as individuals. And that is the organization which we founded 10 years ago, that it's an economic emancipation movement that is not just about its individual leaders. It's not a private organization. It's an organization of the people. It's an organization which we are going to bequeath to future generations to emancipate ourselves from the neo-colonial dominance of the West. And that is what this organization is all about. So if there's one thing which we are rest assured and we confidently know, is that this EFF is going to outlive all of us. So that is, it's finding expression in other parts of the African continent. In Namibia, we've got the economic freedom fighters, which ascribes to our leadership here in South Africa. They've got members of parliament in Namibia. We have never been to Namibia to campaign for the EFF. So the EFF is an idea which is long overdue, and it's relevant for the lives of our people. And one thing for sure, in which we are 100% convinced and we know, is that it is going to outlive all of us in terms of what happens. So that is the organization that will, it's an instrument in the hands of our people. It's a fighting weapon that will inspire many generations to come to fight for economic emancipation. Thank you very much, President.
We don't have confidence in the ANC. We don't have confidence in the MK. We don't have confidence in the EFF. And those are the three biggest black organizations. We are going to open to listen as to what is to be done, and that will guide us as to what do we do.
I don't regret leaving the EFF. It's the best decision I ever took in my political life. Because we're legitimating rubbish there. And there was no way that you could dedicate your intellectual muscles and work. And in practice, you realize that this thing which we said we are standing for is not principle. Check the conduct of EFF in government and what gets to legitimate such. That was the best decision ever. And everyone that we spoke to, this like they, like they were to criminalize Mbu saying, hey, I will never trust a person who knew that the deputy president is leaving. And then they isolate Mbu saying on the basis that he knew that I'm leaving. It's not only Mbu saying it, those comrades knew, we discussed it, and we reached the same conclusion that we're not being fair to society if we say that this comrade can lead this country. All of us agreed with the people who are leading EFF now. That is basically, that is the reality of the situation. The people who are leading EFF now, all of us were unanimous. And then the issue was, what do we do? If I wanted to destabilize, someone is asking, were you sponsored to destabilize the EFF? If I wanted to destabilize the EFF, I could have started a faction inside and caused interactions and this. Well, then the decision was, like, let me not destabilize the EFF, let me leave. I never spoke about the EFF anyway. And also in respect of the responsibilities that I had, that if I was national organizer or secretary general and then speak about the EFF, it was going to be confused as if I'm speaking on those platforms on behalf of the organization. In terms of how we got to deal with, part of, although there were dynamics, like part of the things which I used to appreciate about the EFF was that I don't regret leaving the EFF. It's the best decision I ever took in my political life because we're legitimating rubbish there. And there was no way that you could dedicate your intellectual muscles and work. And in practice, you realize that this thing which we said we are standing for is not principle. Check the conduct of EFF in government and what gets to legitimate such. That was the best decision ever. And everyone that we spoke to, this like they, like they were to criminalize Mbu saying, hey, I will never trust a person who knew that the deputy president is leaving. And then they isolate Mbu saying on the basis that he knew that I'm leaving. It's not only Mbu saying it, those comrades knew, we discussed it, and we reached the same conclusion that we're not being fair to society if we say that this comrade can lead this country. All of us agreed with the people who are leading EFF now. That is basically, that is the reality of the situation. The people who are leading EFF now, all of us were unanimous. And then the issue was, what do we do? If I wanted to destabilize, someone is asking, were you sponsored to destabilize the EFF? If I wanted to destabilize the EFF, I could have started a faction inside and caused interactions and this. Well, then the decision was, like, let me not destabilize the EFF, let me leave. I never spoke about the EFF anyway.
So there's a huge difference between Pan-Africanism, progressive Pan-Africanism, and undocumented migration. It's not the same thing. So we wrote the founding manifesto of the EFF, and it is clearly distinguished that we should advocate for the gradual integration of the African continent so that the economy functions clearly for everyone. There is nowhere that does say there must be undocumented illegal immigration. But you'll have a person who will go and say during elections like that if you are going to be xenophobic, if you don't want these people, you must go and hide your vote, go and jump with your vote. And unprovoked. Even when there is no question about that. And that time, majority of the people are saying, we have got a problem with undocumented people here in our society. And then so I don't care. And that time you want to lead society, but you don't care about what people say. Even if you can be correct, you can't override the views of the majority. Every time the views of the majority are correct, majority in many instances, they are correct that in terms of the decisions that they take, but to be dismissive all the time is not leadership, because leadership means that you must be able to represent the aspirations, the views of the people. The people are busy with something else. They are raising their children. They are involved in agriculture. They are involved in medicine, in a variety of other professions. And then they say that when we are busy here with these other things, we now go and represent us there in government. So we're going to tell you, all of us here, what we stand for. Your role there is to represent us. It's not to come and tell us what we think. It's not to come and impose on us what our values are. That is why even this process that we're engaged in, we're saying we can't just come and say to the people of the Free State that this is what we think your problems are. We must know what are the challenges of the people, and we must hear that from the people themselves, so that we are able to articulate. No matter how intelligent or sophisticated you think you are, you can't replace the wisdom of the collective. You can't.
That is why when there was a suppression of that struggle, we thought that time that maybe let us constitute a different movement to fight for economic freedom in our lifetime. In the beginning, it's begun well, but with time, those that we founded the EFF with began to adopt mannerisms and habits not dissimilar from the ANC. And what are those habits and mannerisms? Is to chase tenders desperately. Desperately. It's want to get rich desperately or die trying. Where to the extent that when EFF began to be involved in government, you find the leadership telling those who are deployees of the EFF in government that if you don't deliver millions here to me, it means you are not serious about leadership. And then some of us had to associate with that. We said, we'll never associate with that. Where government deployees of an opposition party with less than 10% start bragging about siphoning off money of government, millions of rands. And they see nothing wrong with that. And then, of course, they will say it's fundraising for the movement. But if you check the lifestyle and everything else that they gain out of that, that is no longer a revolution. There was no way. And we never chose to wage factional battles against that. We just say, this thing in any way, under this misguidance, it will not go anywhere. In any way, the people of South Africa had begun to see that it looks like we have created another problem here. Hence, lesser and lesser number of people began to give it votes. Because they realized that this is not dissimilar from this nonsense that we have been trying to remove from power. And genuinely, comrades, because we thought that there's a scope to could shape a different movement. We went to MK with the view that will shape a different perspective. But Mkhonto Wesizwe is struggling to become an organization. It's struggling to become an organization, and it will not be an organization. At least majority of us are here now, and I'm sure in Jesus' name that we're going to be here in 10 years' time. What I know is that in 10 years' time, Mkhonto Wesizwe will not be existing. Live 10 years, like in less than 10 years, there won't be an organization called Mkhonto Wesizwe in South Africa.
it doesn't have the capacity, it does not have the fortitude, ideologically, spiritually, organizationally, to could outlive its current problems. And that is a given. So those who are thinking that there will be an organization called Umkhonto weSizwe for the next 10 years are wasting their time. Hence, we are starting this process of constituting an organization that is going to be a true representative of all our people. Comrades, we have picked up a lot of very worrying issues, and we want to add to the voices that we should end the discrimination on the basis of age on who must get a job. Jobs must be given to everyone irrespective of age, even those who are above the age of 35. It must not be discriminated.
If you look seriously, you'll realize that if we have one of us, ophuma eceleni, asimncengi. Let me just tell you, abantu sebeke baba o secretary general kule sebe u7 manje. Ngoba sidlali. Noma ngabe uzazi ukuthi umkhulu, uyathandwa, uyikho konke, we don't care. We talk about our party. Laba bala kule party abathi mabebona umuntu engasebenzi sikhuluma lesazi ukuthi kwenze njani noma eneyinkinga noma onile ebese sithi awusuke akekho umuntu odala ukuthi uyohlala esikhundleni kuyozangena ezulwini ayikho lonto akuyona indaba yakho. If you don't know ozubuza ukuthi kwenze njani kunabantu abaze bathi bafuna ukulokhuza ukuprotesta ngoba sithatha idecision ethile kusho ukuthi ayikakheki le party le ayikakheki ngalendlela esifuna ngayo. Nginitshela impela nani nivuma impela nize nixoxe indaba nibhale ngayo yini yona le sifuna inkululeko la asivikeli umuntu sikhuluma onke umuntu la nalabo esathi kuqala bahambe azange sibaxoshe wayihambela ngoba kwakunezinto ezirong singafuni ukubaphoxa sitsheni isizwe ukuthi bonini ngoba iningi labo loneli kukhulu manje wayi bese ningena indaba eningayazi aniyona high command i-high command okufanele ukuthi ikhulume indaba zalenhlangano kowenza kahle nongenzi kahle kowenza inkinga nongenzi inkinga akuyona indaba yawenu le sengitshena abadala ke manje nothi ngani ngoba ibona ngizokuthiwa impela bazobe beprotesta kufanele ngabe sithola inkululeko silwela inkululeko siyavikelana sodwa.